You know, sometimes the most powerful stories aren't told with words at all. They're told with scientific evidence. In this explainer, we're going to look at a truly shocking crime in Lajpat Nagar and how an autopsy report not only unraveled the truth, but also told a story of incredible courage.
So, let's start with this big question. What can a body actually tell us after death? I mean, when someone's gone, they become a silent witness, right? Well, not exactly. Through the meticulous work of forensic science, that silence can be broken. In this case, the autopsy report literally became the victim's voice, telling us the story of her final moments. And for 62-year-old Sarita Jain, that story begins with this one stark number. Over 30. That's how many injuries medical examiners found on her body. Each one was a clue. And just that number alone, it speaks volumes about the sheer violence of what happened.
Now, these weren't just random marks. The pattern of these injuries painted a really clear, though very grim, picture of a brutal and multifaceted assault. Think of each wound as a piece of a puzzle, a physical record of the crime as it unfolded.
I mean, the autopsy revealed a terrifying sequence of events. The attacker used so many different methods, stabbing but not with a knife, with broken glass from a flower vase, strangulation with a bed sheet, smothering with a pillow, and even smashing her head against a wall. This variety, it really points to an overwhelming level of force and a chilling determination.
And listen to this quote. This isn't from some sensational news report. This is from a clinical, scientific document, the autopsy report itself. When medical examiners, people who are trained to be objective and detached, use words like brutal and diabolical, it just underscores the extraordinary cruelty of the crime. Okay, so the forensic evidence tells us the what and the how of the crime. But to even begin to understand the why, we have to look at the people involved. Let's get some of the human context behind these grim findings and uncover the relationship at the heart of this tragedy.
So on one side, we have the victim, Sarita Jain. She was a 62-year-old woman, and she was living alone. On the other side, the accused, Kanchan, who was just 25 years old and was her former domestic helper. The relationship, once one of an employer and employee, had soured, and that really set the stage for this tragic confrontation.
And here's the crucial backstory. The accused, Kanchan, had actually been fired from her job a couple of months before the incident. She reportedly came back to the house saying she just wanted to talk. So this wasn't some random break-in. This was a confrontation that was deeply rooted in their shared past.
But here's where the story takes a turn. The evidence doesn't just paint a picture of a brutal attack. It also reveals a fierce, desperate struggle. The autopsy report makes it clear that Sarita Jain was not a passive victim. No, she fought back, and the signs of her battle for survival are written all over her body.
Now, before we look at that evidence, it's really important to understand this key forensic term, defensive wounds. These are the telltale signs that a victim fought back. They're the injuries a person gets while trying to block an attack or shield themselves, and in an investigation, they are incredibly significant. So, the evidence lets us reconstruct this terrible sequence of events. What probably started as a robbery attempt quickly turned violent. But Sarita Jain did not give in. She resisted, and her resistance was met with more and more brutality, as the attacker had to resort to just overwhelming force to try and subdue her. And this is the proof of that resistance. The autopsy found clear defensive wounds on her hands, arms, and legs, physical proof that she was actively fighting her attacker. On top of that, she had broken ribs and fractured bones in her neck, all signs of an incredibly violent physical struggle where she absolutely refused to submit. So what does all this cold, hard evidence actually tell us? I mean, beyond the clinical details, what story does it really tell about Sarita Jain's final moments? And maybe more importantly, how does it help bring her killer to justice? Let's break down the implications. This really connects all the dots. The fact that there were multiple assault methods, that shows an attacker with an extreme, almost frenzied determination. The defensive wounds, that's scientific proof of a violent struggle and the victim's resistance. The broken ribs and neck bones, they show us the shocking level of brute force that was used. And here's an interesting one. The fact that a flower vase was the weapon suggests the attack probably wasn't premeditated with, say, a knife brought to the scene. It likely escalated from a confrontation that got way out of hand.
So at the end of the day, the autopsy report did so much more than just list injuries. It gave prosecutors a scientific narrative of the crime. It confirmed their theory of a robbery that went horribly, horribly wrong. In a case where there were no eyewitnesses, Sarita Jain's body became the most powerful witness of all.
And that really brings us to our final thought. In crimes like this one, where there are no direct eyewitnesses to the act itself, the science of forensics is everything. It leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. In the absence of witnesses, how does science ensure the silent can still speak?